Horimiya is by far one of the best animes I've seen in a while. The reason why is because it fully commits to being a slice-of-life anime, while focusing pretty equally on being a rom-com with drama elements. It also subverts the pitfalls that other animes tend to fall into, and best of all, transitions smoothly between scenes and events. Now let's get back to that first part I said. It embodies the slice-of-life anime tag. By focusing on one particular background from the anime, other distractions kind of fall by the wayside. How can these characters focus on nutting if the world's fate is in their hands?
You should see your face!
Or the audience was just shown something that seems to be more interesting than the current situation.
You pervert! I'm sorry, what?
I.e. Dragon Maid with the Dragon World brought in by Toru, or some parts of Darling in the Franxx and Neon Genesis Evangelion, where the entire fate of Tokyo, and possibly the world, falls on these protagonists' shoulders. I mean, I don't know about other people, but it would be kind of distracting if there's a giant angel or monster in the background and all of a sudden it's like, do you think generic male protagonist thinks my ass is too big? I will admit, Neon Genesis does do this on occasion, but even though it did it on occasion, I didn't stop watching Neon Genesis, or NGE. I did stop watching Dragon Maid because it focused, or it didn't focus on it, but it did show that Toru did have responsibilities outside of Kobayashi, and rather than dealing with the actual situation going on in her homeland, she decided to abandon her home with all of its problems
Because I'm in love with Miss Kobayashi! Be serious.
for somebody who basically looks like Daria 20 years later. So, Horimiya, instead of worrying about supernatural creatures burning down the world, or dragons massacring everyone, the characters and the audience are able to just focus on the nut, the most important thing in a romantic anime. By cutting out all the extra stuff, whether that be, dragons or supernatural creatures or what have you, the anime is able to focus on the main core of the series, which is talking to each other. It being a slice-of-life anime, it should talk about slice-of-life stuff. And I think Horimiya actually really embodies that mindset. The dialogue from Horimiya is so smooth in terms of it transitioning from characters talking about relationship stuff, specifically regarding the main romantic couple in this particular anime, Hori and Miyamura, to making jokes about the fact that their dad hasn't shown up to their house in years. I mean, this anime, as I will talk about later, talks about many different things. Multiple subplots are constantly moving around, and because of that, the dialogue needs to carry it, along with, good visual aids to, embody how a character's feeling, combined with how is it that this group of people are feeling while this is happening. That happens a lot, and it'd be difficult for any anime to do it, but the reason why it works in Horimiya is because of the dialogue. The best way to describe it, they talk like real people. Issues don't just hang in the air for, days upon end and, nothing gets solved. Within an episode, a character gets into an argument with another character. Those two characters steam for a bit, and within the same episode, it's resolved. It could be that it was a misunderstanding. It could be that one character was just in a really bad mood at that time. It could be a multitude of things, but it gets solved within that episode. And it gets solved in a way that makes sense. That is the beauty of this particular anime. I mean, fuck, how long did it take for Hinata and Naruto to get together? It took fucking an entire series for them to finally start talking to each other. Within the span of 13 episodes, keep in mind, this is the most amazing thing about this anime, the fact that it's only 13 episodes. From episode 1 to episode 5, Hori goes from not knowing Miyamura at all, to meeting him because of her little brother, to basically getting extremely used to having him around her in her house, to eventually realizing she does love him a lot and can't really imagine life without him, to eventually letting him put it in episode 7, and finally, spoilers, agreeing to marry him in episode 12, so that everything comes to a conclusion. Miyamura at the last episode realizes how much things could have been very different if he just hadn't met Hori's little brother that day. It's difficult to do. It's difficult to make it work. But somehow, with this particular anime, it works. Moving on from the slice of life tag to the romance tag. Or, hold on. One last thought. If, by watching this video, you just kind of want to hear about it, you have no plans of watching it, I would say to at least watch episode 4 and 5. Episode 5 specifically, it's my favorite scene by far, is the introduction of the father, right after Hori finishes talking to Miyamura about two things that were unclear at the start of the episode, which leads to how Horimiya does romance and comedy. Romance tends to be like the, salt and pepper. The way salt and pepper is to seasoning food, romance is to basically every popular anime nowadays. And too often, when the romance tag is there, so is the harem tag. And it tends to not work. It distracts from the actual stories involving the characters, and tends to leave the audience feeling like he didn't end up with the right character. Case in point, the Quintessential Quintuplets. Each character individually can be a good romance option for the main character, but the problem is it's not just one. This exact same issue also happens with Date A Live, Shuffle, Sorry Vampire, and Sekirei. Usually one character makes the most sense for the main character in regards to, what it is that what it is that the main characters presented themselves to be, and what is it that will work best with them. And since it is a harem anime involving sisters, the characters being snakes to one another in order to get more favor with the main character kind of takes away from their likability as characters, because if you're willing to fuck over your own sister for some dick, that kind of says a lot about you both as a person and as a sister. It also kind of talks about, loyalty and things of that nature. But anyway, too long didn't read. The biggest complaint about the quintuplets was that its best moments were when the main character would focus on one of the sisters, and its worst moments were surrounding the fact that there wasn't just one sister. In my opinion, this is the main problem with harem animes, and if you're looking for a romantic comedy or you're looking for romance, it tends not to work very well. Horimiya avoids this by simply not having the harem tag to begin with, but still takes time to tell, other romantic stories, just by having other characters and using those other characters to talk about possibilities. Now, I don't mean possibilities for Miyamura, I mean possibilities in terms of other ways that the, writers and creators of the anime can talk about romance and different, couple dynamics and stuff like that. Horimiya tells many stories involving different characters, but the main love story is that of Hori and Miyamura. There are many side stories, but the one that I'll mention here for sure is throughout the season, there's another romance, or I guess kind of like love triangle happening. 3 characters named Yuki, Toru, and Sakura. This little debacle begins in episode 7, where Sakura brings Toru cookies, which we all know that's like a sign of, I'll let you put it in if you let me, or whatever, the type of thing. It's an obvious sign that the girl wants to do some pegging with the boy. And obviously, Yuki has some, feelings about this. And within the span of about 3 episodes, by the time you get to episode 10, everything gets resolved. Throughout these 3 episodes in Horimiya, as in from episode 7 to episode 10, it touches on how Sakura feels, both the excitement, the nervousness about giving him cookies, the disappointment when he doesn't seem to return her feelings the way that she'd want him to, and the absolute emotional damage that comes from being rejected, which most romantic animes rarely show. Most of the time, it's just the boys getting shit on. How dare you not be the right person at the right time, whenever it is that I need you. In this instance, it was a girl who shot her shot and got shut down. And it's sad. She talks to a friend about it. The friend builds her up. She recognizes what he's doing, but she dusts herself off, gets the fuck back up, and by the end of the series, by the end of the season, shakes hands with her crush, realizing, you know what, I don't know what it was, maybe it just wasn't our time, whatever. But I don't hate you for it, And even when they do like a breakup type of thing, or, getting shot down in this anime, it's still wholesome. During the 3 episodes where the love triangle is being developed, there's also a subplot in episode 9 where a character named Makio starts bullying Miyamura. And the reason why he starts bullying him is because they knew each other in high school. There's an issue that was never addressed and that eventually comes up, but at the start of the episode, Makio starts to bully Miyamura. Starts talking a bunch of shit to him, and this causes Hori to beat the shit out of Makio and his friend that just happened to be there at the time. Now, even though this is a quick way out of this scenario, that didn't solve any of the issues. Also the fact that Makio directly fucked over Miyamura years ago, and it led to Miyamura feeling as though he's trapped and has nobody to talk to. And that thing was, Makio was in charge of some rabbits when they were in junior high together. They were his responsibility, and he let them die, which left Miyamura without, an escape from constantly being bullied and constantly not talking to anybody. The thing is, though, he made it seem like it was Miyamura's fault and chastised him for it. Makio never apologized for it. Makio ends up apologizing to Miyamura about, what happened years ago. And it's wholesome. They were able to talk about it, discuss it, and get through it. Makio's conscience is clean, and Miyamura doesn't hold a grudge against him for it. Keep in mind, some animes take seasons to do that. There's so many different storylines going on, in some animes where it just goes on and on and on, and nothing gets solved. But unlike Yu Yu Hakusho, that took literally like a couple hundred episodes for you to finally realize, oh yeah, this character actually does Keiko actually does want to, have Yusuke's babies. Every single time other storylines are introduced in Horimiya, it carries over where is it that the main characters stand. The characters that the anime is literally named after. Where do Hori and Miyamura stand? Before anything, they always try to solve some issues before introducing new subplots, and they always try to make it so that the audience understands where they stand. It follows them around for the first few episodes, and then slowly but surely starts introducing subplot. And by far, that's one of the best things about this anime. Alright, to close out, maybe it was the music, or the dialogue, or a combination of all of the above. But I really enjoyed this anime. It was a breath of fresh air from the ecchi-filled, simple, generic male protagonist simulators I've been watching, or the awkward teen simulator animes that everyone seems to keep pushing on social media that I've, lamented in my last video. By no means is this the best anime. By no means is it the best drama or romance anime I've seen. Few animes can hold a candle to Toradora, Angel Beats, or Clannad, or the Clannad series. I mean, same thing. Those animes do have their issues, but to me, it made me realize that things can be so much worse, and I can be living in golden times. In the world of golden times, or golden time. Needless to say, I highly recommend this anime. If you want a mellow stroll through these characters' lives that ultimately ends with, for the most part, all the characters ending up happy, or in the very least, socially inept character making a change around in their lives, and the person that helped them make that change is now going to be their wife, this is the anime for you. If you like music, you like normal sounding dialogue as opposed to, anime as fuck dialogue, this is the anime for you. Thanks for listening to me ramble.